The Virginia Tech Hokies have secured their head football coach for the future.
Basketball season is heating up all around Blacksburg.
College football championship season is just around the corner.
All that and more on this week's edition of the 3304 Sports Crossover Show. We welcome you into the Center for the Arts. I am Taylor Bretl, joined alongside Haden Tolbert for another edition of the 3304 Sports Crossover Show. And Haden, what a month it has been for Virginia Tech as a university in their athletics department. Just an unbelievable month of November. It's been absolutely crazy around here.
Yeah, just an understatement. Virginia Tech entered the market when they fired Brent Pry, and it was kind of like uncertainty when they were trying to look for a head coach. And then when James Franklin got fired, he got put on top of the list, according to Bruce Arians on the Pat McAfee show. So, you know, Taylor, they got their guy.
Yeah, the Virginia Tech Hokies landing James Franklin. What a coach, what a hire. Let's talk baseball here. It was a home run hire, to say the least. And he is going to make such a big impact here at Virginia Tech. We saw him speak on Wednesday when he landed in Blacksburg at 8 in the morning. Like you said, he spoke in front of the school in Castle Coliseum. He was on the McAfee show. He was on SportsCenter. Then he was at the men's basketball game that same night. He's already making such a presence here around Blacksburg, and it kind of feels like he's been here for a little bit for how connected he's getting to everybody.
Yeah, and it felt like that he has been here at Virginia Tech for almost a month. You know, there was speculation that he was in early talks about 3 weeks ago, and, you know, there's a number of reasons he was hired. And first, the coaching experience he has in the DMV, Maryland, JMU, you know, that kind of is a strong suit for him. So the recruiting is going to be a big thing for James Franklin and Virginia Tech as well. You know, he's been a consistent 8 to 10 win team with Penn State and Vanderbilt when he was in their stint. So that's something Virginia Tech hasn't attained for more than a decade. So that's also huge. And finally, you know, people are going to say about his top 10 opponent record, you know, but that's the Big Ten. This is the ACC, which is arguably easier to find success. So that's all you can ask for Virginia Tech and the Hokies to become nationally relevant again.
Yeah, that top 10 record, it's definitely something that is the one bleeding factor of Franklin's resume that maybe brings concerns, but you make a good point. This is the ACC. It's such an open conference. I mean, as of Friday, we have no idea who's going to even be in the championship game just 2 weeks away from the end of the regular season for college football, and that shows how open it is. I mean, you look at the top teams in Virginia, Georgia Tech, Miami. Miami sits the highest on that list at like 13th in the country, I believe. And it shows that will be Franklin's top opponent to face. You're in the Big Ten at Penn State. You're facing a team like Ohio State, who's #1 in the country with every 5-star imaginable. It'll kind of be a notch back on the competition. That's not to, put the ACC under the Big Ten as a conference as a whole, but it really just kind of shows how it's more open. It's kind of like next season, I could not tell you what the odds would be for any team to win the ACC. It just feels very open, and it feels like the Hokies could climb up that list rather fast.
Yeah, and, you know, we're talking about this game against Miami. You know, both teams not having the year that they should have record-wise, but Miami's still in the hunt for the ACC championship. You know, a lot of things are going to happen with teams losing and whatnot, but, you know, it's going to be a long shot, and, you know, you can't put coastal chaos, you know, what we back to say when divisions were a thing. You know, you can't put that chaos behind. It could happen. But, you know, many fans and returners from last year's remember the Fail Mary that happened that spoiled a winning game for Virginia Tech, essentially, for most people. And it's a tough pill to swallow for these fans. So they're wanting to, you know, get their get back and want to get that win, you know, as well. You know, it's a home game, last home game for the seniors, Kyron Drones. People like that, they want to end on a high note and defeat a top 15 team. Yeah,
it is going to be absolutely electric. And we also talked about with Franklin being there, he will be at that game. He's going to run out of the tunnel. That's what he announced on Wednesday. A lot of guys that were looking to join him at Penn State are going to be in Blacksburg, in addition to Hokies, to possible future Hokies, I should say, that were already committed to be in Blacksburg after their high school career. It's going to be absolutely electric. But we're not going to act like this is a lovely competition between the Hurricanes and the Hokies. The Hurricanes and the Hokies are two foes that don't have much love for one another. And with the rich history and the rivalry between the two programs, here's more on that with our very own Alex Kuchenmeister. Alex?
Well, it's so exciting to look forward to the future of Virginia Tech football, but we can't forget about the game that's happening on Saturday. The Hokies will host the Hurricanes of Miami. They're ranked number 15 in the country and led by senior quarterback Carson Beck. This matchup between former Big East rivals dates back to 1953, and Miami has won the last 4 consecutive matchups in this one. But just last year, we were kind of in a similar spot as we are now, and that game was anything but predictable. Let's go there now. Unranked Tech is traveling to Hard Rock Stadium to face number 7 Miami. The undefeated Hurricanes have all of the hype in the world, with top NFL draft prospect Cam Ward leading the charge. It's a high-scoring affair, and Kyron Drones has VT in the lead 34-31 with just 2 minutes to play. But Ward has just marched his team down to the 1-yard line, and he throws this wide-open touchdown pass to Isaiah Horton. It's now 38-24. Miami's in the lead. The stage is set. Drones puts up a prayer on the final heave, and it is actually caught. It's Tech's Daquan Felton in the back of the end zone, and the officials have ruled it a touchdown. The Hokies have just stunned the Hurricanes, but not so fast. After further review, the referees determine that the Miami defender touched the ball when he was out of bounds, so it's an incomplete pass. In just a matter of moments, Virginia Tech has experienced the high of a top 10 upset and then plummeted to the low of this gut-wrenching defeat. Now the Hokies are again looking for a ranked victory on Saturday, their first in a very long time. In fact, it's been since 2021 that VT has defeated a ranked opponent. It was the season opener of that year when they knocked off number 10 North Carolina 17-10. A dominant defensive performance included 3 interceptions of Tar Heels quarterback Sam Howell, this one by Chamari Connor to seal the victory. Funny thing is, these days Connor starts at safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. He actually sacked Denver Broncos quarterback Bo Nix in the Chiefs' most recent game against Denver. But back to Lane Stadium. The Hokies are looking to win as underdogs yet again against Miami, and this game will mean extra to many of the players. It'll be senior day, and the graduating student athletes, led by quarterback Kyron Drones again, will get to experience running out of the Enter Sandman tunnel one final time. It's amazing how much excitement there is about the future of Virginia Tech football. We're all so hyped, but it's just as important to Blacksburg faithful to pour that passion into the players putting on the maroon and orange for the final time on Saturday.
Thanks, Alex. Well, Hayden, it's time to shift into the basketball talk here in Blacksburg. We talked about it to open up the show. It has been such a busy month around Virginia Tech, around the athletics programs, and looking at basketball, both teams with promising starts to the season.
Yeah, both teams are undefeated. You know, Mike Young, last year, he made it an emphasis to put more NIL into the program. And, you know, you're kind of seeing the effects of that. You know, you've got teams from West Virginia like Amani Hansberry, and then also, you know, obviously the main player, Nicolas Abdalis. You know, that's people that are going to expand the team in the NIL.
Yeah, and that men's team is impressive. You talk about Abdalis. To note, same agent as Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's kind of a fun fact. Learned that from CBS Sports. They did a video on that the other day. And then you look at this women's team for the Hokies, second year under Megan Duffy, and they are looking pretty good as well.
Yeah, the returning players I feel like is going to be a key for the women's team. You know, Carly Wenzel, she's been dropping, being a leader in points and assists and rebounds during this stint so far. So it's really going to be key for her and as well as Karis Baker as well to, you know, kind of push the team forward.
Yeah, I mean, this team goes very deep into their bench. We've seen in games earlier in the season, they're literally using every single player on that roster, which is really nice to see. You don't just have a starting 5 and maybe 1 or 2 players coming off the bench. Everyone that wants to play here with Megan Duffy gets the chance to do that. So pretty exciting times around Blacksburg, Hayden.
But it's only November, so we're quite a ways away from March. But I've heard that sometimes that March Madness can occur in college football. Our very own Riley Klaus has a unique story on the madness that has occurred in Division II football. Check it out. Riley?
Whoa. We're still 4 months out from the big dance known as March Madness. And although the college football playoff expanded to 12 teams, it doesn't quite have the same anyone's championship to win type of magic, leaving football fans asking for more. Well, if you open your eyes and maybe your weekend plans, you'll find that starting this weekend, the hunt for a Division II or Division III championship begins for over 70 teams. Just like its spring counterpart, there are Cinderellas to fall in love with, and underdogs who snuck their way in with a last-minute ticket. With 32 teams in Division II's bracket and 40 in Division III, the possibilities are endless. So let me take you to Super Region 2 of Division II football and introduce you to my pals Valdosta State and North Greenville, who, just like the Grinch did to Christmas, stole a bid. Entering the last Saturday before Selection Sunday, neither team ranked in the top 10 of the regional rankings. You'd think they'd be out of luck, with North Greenville at 6-4 and Valdosta State at 5-4 overall respectively. But their dreams were still alive, as the 4 conference title winners in each region get an automatic bid. Despite a 1-3 start to the season for the Trailblazers of North Greenville, they ran the table in conference play, winning all 6 matchups, including the climax against UNC Pembroke to win the Conference Carolinas Championship. With star quarterback Dylan Ramirez and his top target, Eric Rashid, playing their best ball, look out, Super Region 2. And how about the Blazers of Valdosta State? They reside in the Gulf South Conference, which holds just 4 teams. So a 2-0 conference record was enough to pin them with top-ranked, undefeated West Florida. Well, in a turn of events, the conference championship was a barn burner. In an absolute shootout, the Blazers sent the Argonauts back down to earth, pulling off an upset in overtime. On a 4-game heater, Valdosta State is a team you don't want to mess with. Those are just a few Blazers who already have a chip on their shoulder, but if you get the chance, check out some of the Division II and Division III postseason matchups to find who your favorites are competing for a championship.
Thanks, Riley. How about Valdosta State only having to win 2 conference games to advance into their team conference?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and I'm glad we have Riley doing a report on something like this. Just brings awareness to how many factors of college sports at every single level are happening around us near Blacksburg and around the country as a whole. Some pretty fascinating stuff, Haden.
Yeah, and now going back to what we talked about earlier, Virginia Tech men's basketball is going this weekend to the Battle of Atlantis. What do you think about that? And, you know, their first opponent is going to be Colorado State.
Yeah, well, you highlight that first opponent, Colorado State. There's a familiar Hokie on that, and what I'm looking at right here, 3rd on the team in points per game with 13.8. Brandon Rechsteiner, a former point guard for Virginia Tech, was here just last season. He is with that Colorado State team, and I think the Hokies, the big thing about this schedule, they've gotten some, easier games to get into the flow, and now it's going to start picking up. You're not playing at home. They've had a game at home every single game this season besides that neutral site game when they played Providence, and now the opponents are going to start picking up. The talent they're facing is going to get better, and they're going to have some tests away from Castle Coliseum. So games like this will be a true test for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and you definitely think Rechsteiner's probably going to want to get revenge because, he didn't stay here. And, Mike Young probably, you don't know how that conversation turned out, and he wants to prove the Hokies wrong. And like you said earlier, they had a tough opponent against Providence, but, they ended up winning that one with Abdallah scoring 33. So that's building up their resume for this, and this opportunity in Atlantis is going to be more of an opportunity for them. They got Colorado State, and then Mount St. Mary's is going to be a good opportunity if they win Colorado State. So it's going to be really good and probably reward them if they win this and come March time. But as well, Neo Abdallah, he kind of had a rough shooting night against Charlotte the other day.
Yeah, I mean, Neo, we've seen some great games. We've seen some rather quiet games, but you go back to that game against Charlotte, he was definitely off in that game offensively, but every time he had a chance to go to the free throw line, I believe he made every single free throw and didn't even touch the rim. So it's nice seeing if he can't get it going from the field, he can still get it going from the line, and his defense has picked up. We talked about Rechsteiner not being here anymore. It's pretty hard to compete with one of the top prospects, one of the highest rated prospects in Virginia Tech men's basketball history in Neo, a 6'9". You could call him a point guard. He can kind of play the 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's just hard to compete with, and he's been a huge reason to Virginia Tech's success.
Yeah, people are calling him Baby Luka, and it's looking that way. But Virginia Tech, they were able to get like more than 33 free throws in that Charlotte game, so that's huge for them to be able to win and score in that position. But for more on men's basketball and the Battle of Atlantis, here's our very own Landon Weather.
The men's basketball team has started strong, winning their first 4 games to start the season. But if we're being real, the temperature has been dropping in Blacksburg, and I think it's time Mike Young takes his team somewhere where the weather matches the heat that this squad is bringing to Castle Coliseum.
So,
how about the Bahamas? Next week, the Hokies travel to Nassau for the battle for Atlantis, and this trip could be a major resume boost if it goes the right way for Virginia Tech. Now, obviously, you got to play the cards that you've been dealt, and so far the Hokies have done just that, taking down their first 4 opponents who had an average KenPom of 177. Currently, Virginia Tech has not taken on the Bryant Bulldogs, but that team sits at 326 in the Wednesday KenPom rankings. And when you look at who else is making the trip down to Atlantis, you'll notice none of these teams are to be taken lightly at all. If we go off the same ranking, the average is 66, a huge difference between the teams Tech has played so far and who they could potentially face next week. Now, we won't go through all 7 potential opponents for the Hokies, but let's take a look at a few. Starting with Colorado State. The Rams were a tournament team last year, but lost a lot of their production, only returning 2 impactful players from that squad. Familiar names like Brandon Rechsteiner and other portal additions have CSU rolling. A name to remember for VT will be Josh Pasquarelli. The Missouri State transfer has poured in double-digit scoring to begin each game this season for Colorado State. They're lengthy as well. The size of their front court is sure to provide a challenge to the likes of Lowell and Hansberry, but it's nothing the Hokies haven't seen before. Now, let's shift focus to 2 potential matchups, the St. Mary's Gales and the Commodores of Vanderbilt. Everyone knows St. Mary's is a defensive team with prowess and offensive patience. Last year, the Gales ranked bottom 10 in pace in D1, but 5th in the country in defense, holding their opponents to just 61 points per game. This is a potential second game matchup for Virginia Tech, and it's not crazy to say it could be the hardest defensive test they could come across all season. Finally, we'll take a look at Vanderbilt. Any team coming from the SEC is going to be a tall task. Returners Tyler Nickel and Devin McLaughlin are huge lifts on offense, but add TCU transfer Frankie Collins, and that gives you much needed defense and an already high-powered attack. It's a bit less likely that the Hokies and the Doors face each other, but it would certainly provide fireworks and be another great early season test for Mike Young's squad. Atlantis is going to be filled with talent. Don't think that the teams I didn't mention will be a cakewalk, because that is just not true. We've seen under-the-radar teams make their mark on Paradise Island. Don't be surprised if history repeats itself in 2025. Until then, it's all business for the Hokies as they begin to prepare for that gauntlet in the Bahamas.
Thanks, Landon. Well, Taylor, a crazy month for Virginia Tech, having both success with their basketball teams before Thanksgiving, having a holiday season early gift, and then Virginia Tech having a home run hire, and Hokie faithful getting spoiled early.
Yeah, and then you even go to like wrestling with Bo Bassett committing to the Hokies. November, like this October to November stretch for Virginia Tech will be one to remember forever. It's very fun to be here in Blacksburg around that time, and there's tons of excitement. It's kind of like maybe we're getting turkey a little bit early. What are your plans for Thanksgiving? Anything fun going on?
Well, since I'm a local, I won't have to travel as much, so that's going to be good for me. I'm just going to work, enjoy some food with my family, maybe throw the pigskin around. It's going to be great. How about you?
I will be going to North Carolina, so I'll still be in that ACC bubble. I guess I could go to the West Coast and now be in an ACC bubble, but no, definitely going to spend some time with some family. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. For myself and Haden Tolbert, as well as our reporters Alex Kuchenmeister, Riley Klaus, and Landon Weaver, and the many talents helping this show run behind the scenes, we thank you as always for tuning in for yet another edition of the 3304 Sports Crossover Show.